The story begins with a mysterious scene in which a man injects a green liquid into an egg yolk, which miraculously splits in two. The scene cuts to a group of people creating a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for Elizabeth Sparkle. Elizabeth is a beautiful model and the host of a once popular show. For a while, fans flock to her star, eager to snap selfies. However, as time passes, the attention fades, and her star deteriorates, neglected and forgotten. It's clear that people's interest in Elizabeth is waning. Next, we see Elizabeth Sparkle, now in her 50s. She continues to host the same show, but she has changed over time. After finishing a shoot, Elizabeth goes to the restroom, only to discover that the women's bathroom is broken. Instead, she enters the men's restroom and overhears the show's director speaking on the phone. He's talking to someone about replacing her, lamenting the fact that Elizabeth no longer exudes charm. Her ratings have dropped, and he's looking for a young, attractive face to revitalize the show. Elizabeth is devastated to hear this. Her beauty, once her pride, has faded, and the career she has held onto is slipping away. She stands in front of the mirror, examining her reflection and noting every wrinkle. She is heartbroken, not only for the loss of her youth, but also for being rejected. Elizabeth refuses to accept this and confronts the director, who bluntly states, "Look, Elizabeth, there's nothing I can do for you." The director's words had struck Elizabeth hard, as he coldly explained that he needed to cater to public demand and find someone who could embody youthful beauty for the production. His brutal honesty left her devastated. As she drove away from the hotel, his words echoed through her mind. Distracted by her thoughts, she lost sight of the road, and a car approaching from the opposite direction collided head-on with hers. Despite the severity of the accident, she miraculously survived unscathed. It appeared as if fate had spared her. After being released from the hospital, Elizabeth burst into tears, feeling the loss of her former life more deeply than ever. On her way out, she noticed billboards with her face removed, a somber reminder of her fading legacy. As a nurse examined her back, she noticed something unusual, a small note tucked inside her coat. Curious, Elizabeth opened the note, which read, "She changed my life." Attached to the note was a small drive labeled The Substance. Intrigued, she hurried home and plugged it in to discover its contents. The drive revealed information about a mysterious liquid known as The Substance. This was no ordinary serum. It was an elixir that could transform an elderly person into a younger, more vibrant version of themselves. Along with The Substance, another specialized fluid was introduced, allowing both versions, original and renewed, to coexist. However, the procedure was complicated and required upkeep. For the substance to function, both the old and new versions had to be activated every 7 days. To keep the younger body stable, a daily injection was required. This injection would include a special extract derived from the older body's spine. The procedure was difficult but not impossible, offering the chance to reclaim lost youth for a price. When one version or body is activated, the other becomes unconscious. Elizabeth initially dismissed it as nonsense and threw the flash drive in the trash. But as night fell, her emotions took over again. Consumed with nostalgia and frustration, she began obsessing over old photographs, yearning for her lost youth. Overcome with desire, she changed her mind and messaged the mysterious contact requesting the substance. The response was brief, giving Elizabeth instructions. She was asked for her address, then given a specific location and a special call card. The next morning, while reading the newspaper, Elizabeth came across an advertisement placed by her own company announcing interviews for a new model to replace her. This realization deepened her despair while also fueling her determination. With the card and instructions in hand, she noticed a black envelope next to the newspaper that had a number written inside. Elizabeth followed the directions and arrived at a hidden location within a building, a secluded high-security locker room. She entered a specific locker with the number card, revealing a small box inside that she took home. When she got home, she carefully opened the box and discovered a variety of strange items. Inside was a vial of serum and a single-use syringe for starting the transformation. It came with a stabilizer kit, which she'd have to use on a daily basis to maintain her new, youthful appearance. Elizabeth remembered from the flash drive that she'd have to extract a special fluid from her original body's spinal fluid every day in order to keep her new self stable. As she prepared for this extraordinary transformation, she was filled with both excitement and trepidation due to the complex process. Elizabeth was given a specialized kit to manage both bodies, as well as separate food for the younger and older versions. She went to the bathroom and stared at her reflection for a long time, unsure whether she should proceed agreed with this radical transformation. After much deliberation, she injected herself with the green fluid known as the substance. Initially, nothing seemed to happen, but she was soon overcome with intense pain, as if her body was splitting apart. Her eyes bulged, and it appeared that her eyeballs had doubled. Then, in an unexpected moment, her back split open, revealing a new, younger version of Elizabeth, a vibrant, youthful body that had lain dormant inside the old one. The new Elizabeth stared at her reflection, amazed by her transformation. She appeared stunning, youthful, and more beautiful than she had imagined. For a long time, she admired her new face in the mirror, amazed at the substance's effectiveness. Afterwards, she tended to her old self, carefully attaching a food bag to keep her original body alive as instructed by the company. That night, Elizabeth basked in her renewed beauty, fully accepting her youthful appearance. But the next morning, she noticed blood dripping from her nose, which was a concerning sign. Panicked, she remembered the activator kit that had arrived with her supplies. She recalled being told that in order to maintain the new body, she needed to draw a substance from her old body's spine and inject it into her younger self on a daily basis. Elizabeth quickly prepared the activator kit, realizing that this routine was critical to maintaining her youthful form. Elizabeth immediately began extracting the necessary substance from her old body's spine and injecting it into her new body. After the injection, she felt completely normal and her radiant beauty was restored. Now full of confidence in her new youthful appearance, Elizabeth, also known as So, decided to return to the show where she had been replaced. Her stunning beauty left everyone speechless, and the director offered her the role without hesitation. To maintain her weekly body shifts, So informed the director that she needed to travel to her hometown every week to care for her ailing mother, which the director readily accepted, giving her regular time off. With her new job secured, So quickly capitalized on her new appearance and charm, gaining followers and admirers. Her billboards and advertisements quickly spread throughout the city, re-establishing her as a major star. After 6 days, So was thriving in her new environment. However, on the 7th day, the day of the scheduled body switch, she realized it was time to temporarily return to her previous form. Following the shift, Elizabeth reconnected her old body to the stabilizing food supply and resumed her routine. The next day, Elizabeth in her older form arrived at the office, where the director surprised her with a gift in exchange for her previous payment. However, his behavior quickly became demeaning, and he dismissed her from the office, leaving Elizabeth humiliated. She returned home deeply upset by the treatment. As she read the morning paper, Elizabeth noticed an envelope from the same company that had originally provided her with the substance. Inside was a message informing her that her new refill kit had arrived. She wore her coat and picked up the kit, ready to finish her 7-day cycle. When the time came, Elizabeth transformed back into So, activating her youthful body and reliving the excitement and freedom it provided. So's new life was full of excitement and indulgence, but her carefree lifestyle made it difficult for her to maintain a low profile. Worried that her secret would be revealed, she decided to break through a wall in her home and create a hidden room to conceal Elizabeth's older body. The work was noisy, prompting complaints from her concerned neighbors. When one of them knocked to check on her, So used her charm and beauty to dismiss the complaints, even offering to assist if they needed it. But her intentions were clear: no interference. After closing the door on her neighbor, So worked for hours to create the hidden space, eventually securing Elizabeth's old body within it. So could now enjoy her new life with less risk of exposure, basking in her newfound youth without the constant fear of being discovered. So had taken over Elizabeth's home and was on her way to fame, so she hid all of Elizabeth's old photos, keeping her previous identity hidden. So was so enamored with her youthful body that she forgot today was the designated day for body swapping. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's old body was running low on food and required attention, So even invited a friend over, becoming immersed in her social life. However, she soon noticed blood trickling from her nose and a strange sensation running through her. She realized it was time to switch bodies. However, driven by greed, she decided to stay in her youthful form for a little longer. So took all of Elizabeth's stabilizing substances and injected them into herself, making her feel better right away, but putting her old body at risk. After another 7 days, she shifted back. When she returned to Elizabeth's body, she was horrified to discover that one of her fingers had begun to melt as a result of the delay in turning on the switch. Panicked, Elizabeth called the company to admit, "I missed my cycle." Elizabeth called the company, panicked and desperate, saying, "I didn't switch my body in time, and now one of my fingers is disfigured. Is there a way to fix it?" The company responded coldly, "There's no solution. What's done is done." Elizabeth felt a rush of fear as they continued. Remember, you're not two separate beings, you're still one. The new body is derived from the original one, so they are linked. You must be cautious. Elizabeth tried to put it behind her by collecting her new refill kit from the company and going to a nearby restaurant. There, she met an elderly man who gave her an unsettling look and spoke to her in cryptic tones. She noticed a distinct mark on his hand that matched one she had seen on a nurse's hand at the hospital. Suddenly, she realized she was seeing the old version of that nurse. The old man leaned closer and asked, "Has your new body begun to consume you yet?" Elizabeth felt a chill run down her spine. She was so shaken by his words that she bolted from the restaurant and rushed home. The question echoed in her mind, eliciting fears she had never considered before. Elizabeth, wanting to feel beautiful even in her old body, decided to accept her appearance. She called a friend, dressed elegantly, and carefully applied makeup to mimic her new look. She was confident about going out, but as soon as she stepped outside, she noticed posters of her new self all over the place. Her confidence was shattered instantly. In a fit of rage, Elizabeth ruined her makeup, messed up her hair, and spiraled into self-doubt. Depressed, she turned to binge eating to drown out her inner turmoil, eventually collapsing into a restless sleep. The next day, Elizabeth had returned to her youthful form, and it was time for her show. She was enjoying herself while dancing on set when she felt an unusual lump form on her lower body. Surprised, she paused, excused herself from the shoot, and dashed to the restroom. In front of the mirror, Elizabeth examined the strange lump that appeared to be pushing against her skin. Confused and slightly panicked, she tried to feel around it and, to her horror, pulled a piece of it out through her belly button. The unsettling moment filled her with dread as she realized the serious consequences of her dual life. Elizabeth had a bizarre nightmare in which she saw the food she had eaten, a whole chicken, come out of her stomach. In terror, she awoke, realizing it was all a dream. The next morning, she returned to her youthful form as planned and went to her show. However, when she arrived at the studio, she was surprised to see the crew packing up the equipment. Concerned, Elizabeth rushed to the director, who quickly reassured her, transforming her anxiety into delight. He informed her that she would no longer be hosting the regular show, but would instead be the headliner for the much grander New Year's Eve special. She eagerly accepted the offer, overjoyed by the opportunity. However, there was one complication. New Year's Eve was the day she needed to return to her old body. Ignoring the approaching deadline, she chose to enjoy her new body for a few more days, basking in her newfound beauty and success. She was determined to maintain appearances, even if it meant taking risks to keep her youthful body active for a little longer. Elizabeth extracts the stabilizer serum from her original body and repeatedly injects it into her new form to maintain Sue's youthful appearance. However, this continuous extraction takes a toll on her elderly body, hastening its aging process. When Elizabeth finally switches back after several days, she is horrified to discover that her original self has aged dramatically and is almost unrecognizable. Elizabeth's resentment for Sue grows as she sees herself in such a frail, deteriorating state. She destroys every photo of Sue in her home, covering mirrors to obscure Sue's perfect image on nearby billboards. Each reflection and poster is a painful reminder of the younger version of herself that she can no longer maintain. Consumed by worry, Elizabeth contacts the company, desperately asking, "Is there any way to reverse this? Can I restore my body to its former condition? I've sacrificed so much for Sue." The company representative coldly reminds her, "You were warned about the consequences. What's done is done, and there is no turning back now. But you still have a choice. If you want to break the cycle, you can do so right now." Elizabeth must now confront the consequences of her decision, continue the costly pursuit of artificial youth, or find a way to accept herself as she is, no matter how difficult that may be. For the next 3 months, Elizabeth relished her new life as Sue, living fully and enjoying her youthful appearance. But just one night before her big New Year's Eve appearance, she realized she'd run out of serum. That evening, she went to a man's house, but she suddenly felt an intense, disturbing sensation, as if her organs were failing her and about to burst. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, she hurried back to her old body, hoping to draw more serum. This time, however, nothing came out. Panic ensued, and she immediately contacted the company. She desperately inquired, "What should I do now?" The organization politely responded, "If the serum isn't coming out, it means you've exhausted it entirely. You'll need to wait for the production of a new serum, but until then, you must switch back to your original body." Devastated by this response, Elizabeth began the process of switching bodies again, but her situation was critical. The man became concerned after hearing noises in the other room and approached the bathroom door. Elizabeth realized this and rushed to lock the door before he could see her in her frail, deteriorating state. Elizabeth's original form was now shockingly old, with visible signs of frailty such as sagging skin and hair loss. Walking was difficult, and she felt the weight of her deteriorating body. Desperate and horrified, she called the company one final time and pleaded, "I want to end this. I need to stop it all." The company agreed and told her to take the termination serum. Elizabeth, now barely able to move, gathered her remaining strength, concealing her decayed form as best she could under her clothes. Elizabeth went to get some termination serum. She returned, ready to inject it into Sue's body and end the cycle for good. But then she remembered the company's warning. Injecting the termination serum would bind her permanently to the body she was in at the time. This realization caused her to hesitate. Standing in front of the mirror, Elizabeth's rage at Sue flared up. She blamed Sue for the entire mess, and in her rage, she chose to inject only half of the termination serum into Sue's body. She maintained her ambition. She wanted to host the upcoming big show, receive accolades, and bask in the admiration she once had. Elizabeth was consumed by this desire and could not bring herself to complete the termination process. She believed that by only partially injecting the serum, she could keep Sue under her control while maintaining her youthful appearance. Then, determined, she tried to awaken Sue, as if forcing her to cooperate. After unsuccessfully attempting to awaken Sue, Elizabeth decided to switch bodies again. However, this time, the switch did not work. Panicked, she removed the activator from her old body's spine and applied it to Sue. Sue instantly regained full consciousness. Sue became enraged when she realized Elizabeth was planning to terminate her. In a fit of rage, she attacked Elizabeth, repeatedly striking her until, with one final blow, Elizabeth's head hit the ground, killing her instantly. Sue felt a wave of regret as she looked down at Elizabeth's lifeless body. She realized she had gone too far and that she no longer had access to the activator serum. Sue, determined to move forward, cleaned up the scene, erasing all evidence of what had occurred. She prepared herself and set out to host the New Year's program. Sue felt a surge of confidence as she took the stage. But just as she was about to enjoy her moment in the spotlight, she felt an unusual sensation stir within her body, indicating that something was very, very wrong. Sue felt a wave of panic as blood began to drip from her nose. She dashed to the restroom, and when she opened her mouth, 2 of her teeth fell out. Fearful, she touched her mouth, and 2 more teeth broke and fell out. It dawned on her that without the real Elizabeth, her own body was deteriorating, hollowing out from the inside. Sue was desperate to save herself and realized she needed the activation serum right away. She hurried to her apartment, but while in the elevator, one of her fingernails detached and one of her ears fell off. Fear overcame her, but when another person entered the elevator, she forced herself to remain calm, concealing her deteriorating condition until she reached her floor. As soon as she arrived home, she frantically applied the activation serum, hoping it would stabilize her, but nothing occurred. Panicking, she remembered the 2 special substances she had saved, which were only to be used once. In her desperation, she didn't care about the risks. She was ready to use them without hesitation. Sue injected the new substance into herself, and almost immediately, she was overcome with intense pain. Her body began to tear away from her waist, revealing a strange hybrid, a disturbing blend of Sue and Elizabeth with a monstrous twisted appearance. Sue had transformed into a grotesque fusion, neither fully herself nor fully Elizabeth. Her mind was in turmoil, unable to comprehend what she had become. She wasn't sure if she could ever face the world like this. Desperate, she disguised her hybrid face with a photo cutout of Sue's face, hiding the horror beneath, and went to her show as if nothing had happened. When she walked onto the stage and approached the microphone, the photo slipped off her face, revealing her horrifying hybrid appearance. The audience gasped in terror as they saw the monstrous form she had taken on. People screamed and many fled to the exits, calling her a monster. Sue, panicked and terrified, attempted to explain, but before she could, a man in the crowd, overcome with fear, grabbed a baseball bat and struck her in the face. Sue's monstrous face shattered upon impact, splattering blood across the studio floor. Everyone fled in terror as her body began to crumble into strange, fragmented pieces that crawled across the ground like insects. Ironically, beneath it all lay the faded star that had once been dedicated to Elizabeth. Her distorted face lay on the floor, staring up with a chilling smile frozen in time. Suddenly, more blood oozed out, signaling the end of her horrific transformation. The studio workers arrived the next morning, unaware of the nightmarish events that had occurred, and began cleaning, erasing all traces of Elizabeth's tragic fall. Elizabeth's twisted journey of obsession with youth and beauty comes to an end, leaving only a faint, eerie memory of what was.